Okay, well, welcome to another episode of Tactical Gear Guy. Today, basically, what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to make one of these, and pretty much it's just a shotgun dummy round, so that you can practice loading or quickly loading off of a quick loader like one of these. This is one I made, and if you're interested in how to do that or how to make one of these, I've got another video on that, and I'll put a link or something on the side of the video or whatever. But anyway, basically when you're in 3-gun, you have to learn how to dual load or quad load. And I'm a dual load guy. I can't hold on to 4 of these to save my life. So there's no bloody way I'm going to do 4 of them. But 2, I've gotten pretty good at loading 2 at a time. It basically cuts my reload times in half. And as you know, if you do any 3-gun at all, shotgun loading is kind of one of the things that takes the longest of anything that we do when we're in 3-gun. So basically the whole point here was I needed some dummy loads that weren't going to be the crap ones that they make that are plastic, where the edges on these things, every time you load one in, it just beats the heck out of the edges, and they last, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 dozen times of shoving it into a shotgun, and then they break off or they're worn off or whatever, and so you got to replace them. And at $2 a piece for the plastic ones, I'm sorry, I'll use one of these. And yes, I know, before you send me a bunch of notes saying, oh, you shouldn't put anything in your shotgun that looks like an actual round, if you keep your wits about you, you shouldn't have any problems. As long as you put away all of your live loads before you practice, if you keep that as a standard thing that you do, you shouldn't have any issues. So honestly, I really don't want to hear it. The reality is, if you're not doing it when you're drunk and you can't figure it out, then you're on your own. So anywho, other than that, I don't want to hear about it. So let's get on with it. Basically what we do is, obviously these are the spent hulls. I use pretty much the same size that the standard 12 gauge rounds. These are the spent ones. Basically what I do is I gather these up as I'm shooting, or I did, and then just made a dozen or so of them so I could practice. And what I use for that is, this is 3/4 inch doweling. You can get that at any hobby store. It's like pine or something. So it's really simple, and you get it in I think it's anywhere from 6 to 8 foot lengths. And obviously you do the math. You can make, I've made a dozen or so, and I've still got a bunch left. Basically what I do then is, as you can see here, this is the wood part. You shovel that in there, you push this in, pretty straightforward. You obviously have to kind of open it up a little bit, but shovel that in there as far as you can get it in there. I mean, I even used a hammer to kind of tap it in before I cut it off. And then you take a precision saw. You try to get they make them where they've got the guide that guides the saw. That's the best way to do it. You can clamp it down or do whatever you got to do, but you want a real clean edge on that, and as square as you can get it. And before you do any of that, obviously you want to make sure that you remove the primers. I did that on all of these. You poke them out from the inside out. And before I did anything, that was the first thing I did, was got rid of all the primers on all the rounds that I use. Again, just trying to be as safe as possible. So anywho, that's how you do it. You punch out the primer, put the 3/4 inch dowel in as far as you can get it down to the base. You take and you put it in your fixture, and you make sure it's as square as possible when you cut it off. And you want to make sure that you cut it off right about that line. And then I just used some sandpaper and rounded off the edges a little bit just so it was smooth. And then I used a marker. I mean, it's not rocket science. I just used a marker to make them black. I mean, not that it's any big deal, but anyway, that's just an extra step that I did. Other than that, again, when these things are, $2 a piece when you get them on Amazon or wherever you want to buy them, I'm sorry, but it cost me maybe 25 cents a piece to make them. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And yes, again, I will go back to the safety issue. I understand that they look like real rounds, but if you keep your wits about you and you make sure that when you do your practice loading, that you do it without any live rounds anywhere in the same room. worst case. I've gotten to the point now where I put all my live ammo away, and that's when I practice. I put this on my belt and I practice loading 2 at a time, and I do it where, you know, you throw the shotgun under your arm and you load them, and you take them off and you load them this way. It's called weak hand loading. So again, it's a safety thing. I get that. Just please don't leave a bunch of notes saying, you know, you shouldn't use anything that looks like live rounds. I get it, but if you keep your wits about you, you should be okay. So all that being said, this was just a lot cheaper, and not only that, but I think I've loaded each of these probably 100 times each practicing, and as you can see, it's not worn down at all. So that was the whole point, is to get something that's gonna last, that isn't gonna be $2 a piece, and I'm gonna have to buy new ones every other week just to practice. So anywho, hope that was helpful. Bottom line is, again, you know, we're all trying to cut corners here, try to save some money whenever we can, and so I'm just trying to come up with some ideas that'll help y'all out, and hopefully you'll, you know, appreciate it. And other than that, hope it was helpful, and if you'd be so kind as to go ahead and you know, leave a comment if you have a question or whatever, and like and subscribe. Otherwise, have a great day, and thanks for watching, and happy shooting.